Welcome to She's the Boss, the podcast where female wellness entrepreneurs talk ambition, money, and ownership out loud. I'm your host, Lee McSwan, a certified holistic nutritionist turned wellness business coach. This is where conversations are unfiltered, the rules of entrepreneurship get rewritten, and nothing is off limits. Money, motherhood, friendships, legacy, wealth, power, and what it really takes to build a life and business on your terms. Let's get after it.
All right, today's guest is Andrea Mondu. She is the founder of Balance and Bliss. She's a transformation coach, speaker, host of the Balance and Bliss podcast, and author helping empower women on their pursuit of wellness and happiness. With a wealth of experience spanning over a decade, Andrea has dedicated her career to coaching and uplifting individuals on their journeys to wellness and happiness. Her expertise lies in assisting people recognize and reframe the narratives they tell themselves regarding their capabilities. Her true calling lies in guiding individuals through transformation, one step at a time. Andrea, welcome to She's the Boss.
Oh, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I love, you probably saw I was smiling. I love listening back to my bio because it's just a testament to how much work I've done. And I just feel really excited about the work that I get to do every day.
Yes. And today is January 5th when we're recording this. It is officially New Year's Day for me. It's the first Monday of 2026. The kids are back to school. It feels like an office day. Do you share that same feeling?
Oh, 100%. I was bright-eyed and bushy-tailed this morning, just like so excited to get back into routine. I've really enjoyed the time off with them, and I'm really excited to be back in my own schedule, have the house to myself, to do what lights me up and not be interrupted.
Yeah, it's kind of nice, isn't it?
Yeah, it really has been.
So with this being New Year's Day, 2026, what is something that is exciting you for this coming year in your business?
Well, this is a really exciting year, I think, because so last year was a bit of a evolving type of year for me. I did a lot of big things that I had never historically done in my business before. So I hosted an international women's retreat in Punta Cana, big deal. Finally put the last finishing touches on the book that I have been working on. And so now in 2026, I'm really excited to just continue that expansion and launch this book that I have been writing and just continue to grow the way that I serve and allow women to, or invite women rather, to show up for themselves. It's got me very excited.
Yes. And do you have a word for 2026?
Yeah, expansion. That is my word. It just came to me as I was flipping through a magazine and I was like, this has to be the word. I've done words for the last 5 or 6 years and they just serve so well.
Yes, amazing. I love that. I always try to focus on a word, but this year it was a phrase that came through for me and it was all in.
Oh,
right? It's
yeah.
Everything that I want. I have to be all in. I want to get better at snowboarding with my kids. I have to commit to doing the things I don't want to do. They're going to take me on double black diamonds. I'm all in. I'm going to launch this podcast. I'm all in. So that's kind of my mantra, I guess, for 2026.
That's cool. I love that. I love that.
So you are an author. You are about to release your first solo book, Embody Bliss. That is coming out on March 11th. There will be a link for pre-orders if you're listening to this episode before March 11th. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about what this book is about and who it's written for?
This episode is sponsored by Ignite, my immersive mastermind for female wellness entrepreneurs who are ready to stop playing small and start leading their 6, 7, and 8-figure businesses with intention. Ignite is where we shift how you think, decide, and build so that your business supports your life, not the other way around. It's linked in the show notes if you want to explore more. Okay, let's jump back into the episode.
Yeah. So if you are a woman listening to this episode, and honestly, not even a woman, a man as well, the concepts in this book are really applicable to anybody. So that's who I think it's for. But the premise of this book, so it's called Embody Bliss, break free from the shoulds and move into more joy. And I feel like every single one of us on this earth are living out a lot of other people's stories. And it's unconscious. We don't realize it. We don't know it. And until somebody says to us, hey, does that thought actually feel good for you? Is that your thought? Is that someone else's? Is that story yours, or is that story someone else's? Until somebody tells us that, as we live on autopilot and we get to the end and we're like, why have I never been happy? Or why am I always chasing happiness? And so I wrote this book. It's a memoir style book. So there's a lot of storytelling in it, but it is rooted in practical self-help strategies that help you to break free from all the things you should be doing, the people you should be having relationships with, the jobs you should have, the way you should show up in your days, and instead allow you to really move into a place where you are living solely for yourself and investing in relationships and boundaries and time in nature and inner dialogue exploration, all of that just for you. And that is really what allows for people to have that simple happiness that I think a lot of us are craving. I started writing this book because I feel like we are trying desperately to be at home with ourselves in a world that tells us all the reasons why we shouldn't be. And so it's when we stop listening on the outside and we start listening in here, that's where the real magic starts to happen. And so I've kind of learned that for myself, and I'm like, I gotta impart this knowledge onto other people as well, as much as I can.
Yes, absolutely. And you're a successful transformation coach. So what are some of the things that you see women saying to themselves, or maybe even saying out loud, that are the shoulds? I should have done X. What's the most common one?
Well, there's a lot that is said out loud, but actually even more that is said internally. So a lot of limiting beliefs about, oh, well, I grew up, seeing this in the media, or I grew up seeing this in my family, or I grew up being told, X, Y, and Z. The biggest one, and I think that this one rings true for me as well, is it's you grow up, you find the career that you're going to have, and then you go to school for that career, and then you get a job, and then you work 9 to 5, and then you create a family and all of that sort of stuff. And it's you pour and you give into your family, and then that's supposed to be the things that are fulfilling. And in reality, you can take that path if that feels right for you. You can also take that path and then decide to take a different path if that no longer feels good for you. Just because you started something doesn't mean you should continue it, or just because somebody told you that you should do something doesn't necessarily mean that you should. So that is a really, really big one. And like I said, we don't always say these outwardly. These things often happen on repeat in our brains, right? If I'm sure you probably know this, but there is such a large part of our thoughts that are on autopilot. We have conscious thoughts, but then we have an insane amount of unconscious thought and so many hardwired neural pathways in our brain that it's just these thoughts happen without even thinking about it. And so it's so easy to go through our lives and just be, oh, yep, you don't meet a deadline. Oh, I suck at that. Or something feels hard the first time and it's, oh, I suck at that. I can't do that. I shouldn't be doing that. And we believe that, but we can choose to believe a different thought if we want to. We just have to be given that knowledge to how do you even start to do that?
Yeah. And I guess that would be my question is, once we kind of bring those subconscious thoughts that are running on autopilot into the conscious thought, what do we do with them?
Yeah, that is a loaded question. And I actually get that a lot from clients. They'll be like, okay, this isn't working for me, but I just don't even know where to start. And so the book is called Embody Bliss. And that word embody really resonates with me and my clients that I work with, because it's like an acronym for a framework or like a concept that I often work through with my clients and is rooted in this book as well. But the E from embody stands for elevate your awareness. So when we're thinking about wanting to create some sort of change or noticing the thought, so you notice it, that's the first step. It's like, okay, I want things to be different. Let's take some time to eavesdrop on our thoughts. So let's think about the things, and maybe you make a log. I've done this before, where you'll make a log for a week of what are the things that I'm consistently saying to myself over and over again. For me, I always said I'm not a morning person. And so I never was a morning person. I never was a morning person because I always said that I wasn't a morning person. So when you notice that thought, you can be like, okay, exploring it a little bit. And all of this work typically happens either in your mind or on a piece of paper. But once you are aware of the thought, then you can be like, do I like this thought? Does it make me feel good? Does it get me closer to where I want to be, farther from where I want to be? Where could this thought have potentially come from? I ran an event, multiple events actually, a couple years ago. There were four of us that were co-hosts, and one of the women, when she was talking a lot about her transformation, she talked about how when she was growing up, people always told her that she was too much. People always told her that she was too much and that she was too loud and that she needed to be quiet. And so for a long time, she did those things. She felt like she was too much. She apologized for her big and beautiful personality because people made her feel like she should apologize for that. She didn't know any different until she was like, I don't have to apologize for who I am. So, yeah, just getting some awareness into it really is the first step.
I think this is so relatable for so many women. I know this to be true for myself. I know this to be true for many of the women that are in my life. I even have one friend who is taller, and she was always surrounded by shorter friends. So she developed, yeah,
That's
yeah,
me.
yes, you. She developed postural issues because she was shrinking herself down. And I think that this is something that affects women in so many different ways. We're told, don't ruffle feathers, don't be overly confident, don't be one that I heard was I'm bossy. And that was a big one. And I'm an Aries, so I have very strong natural leadership, but it really played in the background of my mind through so many interactions. When I would be trying to execute something, I would be, oh my gosh, I'm being too much, right? And scaling that side of me back. And I think as we get older, it gets a little bit easier.
It does, except if we have never been taught that too, right? Okay, so I'm going to tell you a story that lands literally perfectly to this situation right now. So I have a 10-year-old, and she is just starting to kind of get into that, preteen kind of frame of mind with friendships and all of these sorts of pieces. And so, I feel really blessed that I get to give her all of these tools so much younger than I had them. But there was a situation over the Christmas break where she was supposed to be having a play date with a friend. And then she's in this group of there's three of them that are really close. And so she had plans with one of them. And then the three of them were having a group phone call. And then the play date got mentioned. So then the other girl got invited as well. And so then there was going to be three of them. And so that morning she was like, I don't want to go to the play date anymore. And I was like, why not? And she's like, well, whenever we hang out, the three of us, I always feel left out, and I feel like they don't like me and they just want to be together, the two of them, and then I'm on the outside. And I was like, okay. I was like, tell me a little bit more about that. So she did, and I didn't let her not go. I still made her go to the play date. I was like, you know what? We're going, you're getting dressed, because that's just not true. These two friends still care very much about you. But when we were driving to the play date, I said, girlfriend, I'm going to tell you why I made you go. Because sometimes we have thoughts that we literally think they're true. And we can spin ourselves so much into thinking that other people don't like us because we've created this story that actually doesn't exist. I said, but when you stop and you take a look at the other evidence, or mom on the outside can look and say, these two girls actually really care about you. They were reaching out to you so much over the Christmas break. They're so excited to see you. What the story that you have inside is just not true. And so then it was like, we kind of had that little bit of a conversation, and it was like, okay, now she has that awareness to maybe sometime when we're not together, she'll have a thought and she'll be like, oh, is this a true thought? Or is this somebody else's thought? Or is this not a true thought? It's such a powerful concept to have at your disposal as long as you know about it.
Yeah. And I think it's such a beautiful gift that you've been able to give that to your daughter, because I think that is going to prevent her from years, decades of self-doubt and questioning, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a question for you about entrepreneurship, and that is, what belief did you have about success that you had to completely unlearn in order to get to the point that you are at today?
Mm.
What was your belief?
Well, I don't necessarily think that it was my belief, but it was instilled from the world around me that in order to be successful and to be seen as professional and successful, I had to have a corporate with benefits, salaried, well-paying job to like be responsible. And I remember when I was on maternity leave with my first daughter, I was really, really dreading going back to work. I had just had a 1 year taste of what it's like to make your own schedule, to have flexibility, to be at home, to be able to like fold a load of laundry during the day at home if I want to, so that I don't have to fold it all on the weekends and in the evenings. I just had that flexibility and in my heart, I knew that I was actually yearning for that. I think it was something that I didn't realize I was looking for. And so thinking about going back to work, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go back to that busyness of what corporate world looks like. And so I decided to pursue coaching. That was kind of when the idea was first born. So I took my certification. I was trying to figure out what having your own business would look like. And I remember reaching out or talking to a close family member about that. I was like, I want to start my own business. And I was excited to share that. And her response was, "Oh, but you have a kid now and you have a house and you can't give up your income and your benefits to follow this dream. That's not quote unquote a real job." She didn't say that, but that's kind of what I was getting. And so I believed that too. I stayed like another year or two beyond that, scared to jump into entrepreneurship and the uncertainty that comes with it. And now, of course, I'm kind of a rebel myself. I don't like to let these things hold me back. It did take me a little bit longer for sure, but now here I am, 2026. I registered my business in 2018 and really went full into it in the last couple of years. I had been doing it kind of part-time then, while I also built up my own belief that I could make this happen, you know?
Yeah.
And so now it's like anybody who is thinking about diving into entrepreneurship, it's not necessarily easy all the time, but it is so worth it, and you can really get through anything. And to me, that is what success is it's you get success now is I get to make my own rules, make my own schedule, take on the work that I want to, all of these sorts of things that it's like I am actually the creator of my own life now, and somebody else doesn't have that power. And that to me is like pretty freaking awesome.
That's the freedom.
Yeah.
Did you share your ambitions to become an entrepreneur with anybody else other than that friend?
Yes. At the time, let me think back to the timing of this. Yes, at the time, my husband had his own business as well. And so I shared it with him. And so he was a bit more open about it. But that same fear of the instability of entrepreneurship also came up, which truthfully is part of the reason why I still stayed in corporate for a while, was because one of us needed to have some sort of stable income. But I was not giving up on my dream. And he knew that. And even, when it came down to like me leaving corporate and going full time into my own business, it was a conversation about numbers and what that could look like and that sort of thing. But he still really held that belief that let's try it and let's make it happen. Honestly, our fallback plan is always anyone in the entire world who wants to start a business, you can always go get a job. If it doesn't work out, you can always go get a job. But you might be like, but if you don't do it, at the end of your life, you're going to be like, I really wish that I took that chance on myself. I really wish that I started that business or whatever it is. You just always have to try. My belief.
Yeah, I should have started the business. I should have done the thing that lit me up. Absolutely. Do you think that everybody is designed for entrepreneurship?
Oh, I don't. And I say that because I didn't realize the large element of self-growth that you have to do to be in business for yourself. It's not a mandatory piece. I think that there's a lot of people who are in business for themselves who haven't really done a lot of deep work. But being in business for yourself requires you to constantly push yourself outside of what feels uncomfortable. You have to get over your fear of being seen, because if you're not
Mm-hmm.
seen, no one's going to buy shit from you. And
Exactly.
so it's all of those voices that we have inside of us get a lot louder when you're trying to be in business for yourself. Who cares what you have to say? Nobody's going to want to buy what you have. This isn't good enough. Somebody else is doing it better. Comparison. All of those things shine quite bright when you are trying to make your passion flourish. And so I think there's an element of really deep growth that has to happen in order for that longevity and to really be able to stay true to yourself and not burn out.
I agree with you. I don't think that everybody is cut out for entrepreneurship. And I don't mean that in any sort of discrediting way, because I actually think that we still find our joy in one department or the other, whether you're working for somebody else or working for yourself. There's a lot of joy that comes with both elements. I think that a mirror is held up to us, especially as women, when we step into entrepreneurship. And I would actually say that I think you're kind of forced to deal with a lot of your limiting beliefs, and a lot of for women specifically, it's usually around fear of judgment or shame or something like that. And so when you've had those beliefs come up for you along your journey, was there ever a point in time where you thought, you know what, maybe I will go back to the corporate job? Or were you so hell-bent and determined, being the fiery person that you are, to make it work, that it just wasn't even an option on the table for you?
Yeah, option B. I say this all the time. I can't imagine being back in a life where I have to get up and get dressed and get my kids out the door and go work for someone else and spend 8 hours of my time there and then come home, pick up my kids, come home. I actually wrote about this in my book, about that life. And as I was writing it, I was like, oh my gosh, I really don't ever want to be back here. Because it's like you as I was saying, you get up, you go to work, you come home, you do dinner, you put the kids to bed, you try and do housework, you rinse and repeat for 5 days, and then you have 2 days on the weekend to catch up on everything. I will never go back to that. I will figure out a way to make it work. And so I just there was really no other option for me than to like deal with my shit so that
Yes.
I could make this successful. And I'm not claiming that that was necessarily easy work, and truthfully, I'm still learning and growing and investing in myself in ways that allow for me to be a better business owner. And all of those things just trickle out into helping me be a better human and mother and partner and person and friend. But yeah, there's no other way for me, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you. I can't do it. And so, speaking of investments with business, what is the best investment you've ever made in your business?
Mm. Growing, honestly, growing myself. Now, it's funny. I was just talking to my husband about this weekend, because I am very heavily in personal growth all the time, but that's because that is the niche that I work in. And so I even more understand the value of making these types of investments and how beneficial investing in yourself can be. But I will say that, like, growing your skills and learning more about yourself is always the best money spent, because there's always something that you can glean from investing. Now, you have to invest and you also have to show up. So there's that part of it as well, is that like you can invest in things. And it's funny because I started my career in social work. So I went to social work, or to social services. I got a diploma when I was 18, graduated when I was 20, and worked in frontline mental health. I worked with seniors who are at risk of homelessness and addiction, and just really like emotionally heavy, laborious work for a lot of years. And oftentimes those clients that I worked with, they didn't really want to work with me, right?
Right.
They were put in positions where they had to get the support to maintain their housing or whatever it was. They really didn't show up in the way that you have to show up if you're making an investment in yourself. So to bring it back full circle, I think that that's why I love coaching so much, is because I'm still doing similar work to what I used to do, But people who are hiring me and choosing to work with me, for the most part, if they're putting their money on the table, they're invested and
Mhm.
they're showing up to do the work, whether it's in big ways or in small ways. And I just love to see that transformation and growth for people because it's really cool when people push beyond what they think is possible for them and instead have a totally different reality than they ever thought could be possible for them just because they've started to do some of this work that I do with them.
I love that. And it's so true, right? Do you believe that every coach needs a coach?
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
And
100%.
what are some of the benefits that you've seen with your clients from where they were before they started working with you to where you're able to get them?
I think the biggest transformation I often see for women that I work with is just like a really deeply rooted belief in themselves and their worth and what they're deserving of. And when you are very deeply rooted in what you feel you deserve and are not willing to take anything less than that and are willing to speak up for yourself or you feel confident enough to speak up for yourself, you have built an insane amount of self-trust. There's nothing that you can't do. And there
Yes.
is nothing that you will accept that is less than what you know that you deserve. And that is power. And that is just life-changing work.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you're allowing them to get out of their own way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that that is the most liberating thing that we can do as coaches, as people that hold the containers and whatnot. So I really admire that in you. Let's turn back to the book here. From an author standpoint, what is the hardest part of writing a book?
I think so. My first book, I wrote it in 5 months. My friend planted the idea for me, the seed. He was like, you love to help people and you can only sit down with so many people. But what if your book could have massive impact that you can't even see? And I was like, oh, shoot. All right, fine. I'm writing a book. So that one I wrote in 5 months. I don't know, it just felt really easy for me to write and get out. This second one, I've actually been writing it since August 2023.
Wow.
And at the time, now mind you, I only had one child then, and then I had two when I was writing this one. So that could be a piece of it as well. But I knew what I wanted it. I knew the title right away. The title came to me right away. I knew exactly what I wanted each chapter to be about, what I wanted the premise of the book to be. But I think part of what took me so long was because I really wanted it to be something that people can pick up and read through and finish and feel so seen that they can't imagine not having read that book. And
Oh, wow.
so I really wanted to make sure that I included. It was like if I could say if I could have these people's attention one time, what would I want to say to them? And so I just spent a lot of time really allowing for all of that to come. The roadmap of the book is this. So it starts off with talking about the importance of thought work. There's a little bit of an introduction piece in there, who I am, what I'm doing, why you should read this book. But there's the introduction of the thought work and how important it is. Then it kind of goes into stories and how are you carrying your stories or someone else's. Then it moves into the shoulds. And the title of the chapter came from a therapy appointment, actually. My therapist said something like, oh, the shoulds are really heavy, aren't they? And I was, the shoulds are heavy as shit. And that's where that chapter came from. And then it moves into the relationship with yourself and the relationship with others, which are topics that are not talked about often, about especially the relationship with yourself. And then it moves into boundaries. It moves into the importance of laughter and play and how that is such a missing piece of our society, I think, is being childlike again and playing and doing things just for fun or just because, not tied to productivity or all of those sorts of pieces. And then it moves into the importance of nature and getting outside. And then it kind of just like brings it all back together of what are the actual things that I have found to be so valuable in my growth journey that I think everyone should know. And if I could only sit down with them one time, this is what I'm going to tell them.
Oh my gosh, it's like your literary TED Talk.
Yeah, basically.
I love the framework, and I especially love the piece about getting back into child's play because I really don't see anybody talking about that. So,
Mm.
what are some of the ways that you get back into your childhood and being playful in your everyday life, but also in your business?
Ooh, because I think because I came from the social work world, you had to be very strong with your like professional boundaries in that space, right? It's like you are the social service worker, you are the worker, and this is your client. And those lines have to be very like hard drawn. And then I moved from social work into a professor position. So I actually taught for 4 years at a second career college. I taught social services. And again, it was like professor and student. And there was that big distinction and separation between the two. And so when I moved into coaching, which is kind of just like a bestie
Yeah.
space, it was hard for me to figure out where my level of professionalism, I'm using air quotes for anybody who can't see me because what is professional? And actually, I would argue that there's too many stuffy people that exist in
Hmm.
the world and not enough human people. But I mean, there's lots of human people, but a lot of humanity is gone from humans.
Yeah.
So in my business, I find myself just being really, I don't know, I guess unprofessional. Not in the sense of like I'm crossing boundaries, but more as just like more playful, more fun, more jokey. I like to swear and I don't hide that. It's
Yes.
just like I'm just a real person in the work that I do and it's not stuffy. And in my personal life, oh my gosh. So last year, my word for the year was heal. I think I said it was evolve, but that was totally a lie. That was the year before. My word for the year last year was heal because our family went through some really horrible stuff with my husband losing his business because his business partner had a gambling addiction.
Oh
And
God.
and so it was a really hard year and a half. 2020 or 2024 was awful and it kind of bled into 2025 as well. And so I'm like, oh my God, I got to heal this year. This year has been heavy. I felt like there's been no joy, no anything. And so I joined an adult Glee group. And so like I was saying to you before, I have a show
This is
next
amazing.
weekend. And so we meet every week and we learn choreography, we learn vocals, we sing and dance for an hour every week. And then at the end of the term, we put on a giant show. And it's 4 days long and we host it at a theater and it's sold out every time, every night. And it was so fun. Everybody in that room, there's 150 adults, and every single person in that room is there just for joy and fun. They're
Oh,
there
that's
to
amazing.
sing and dance outside of all of their expectations and roles and responsibilities. They still show up and sing and dance. And there is a lot of talent that people have that they quiet down because they are grown up now. We don't do that anymore.
Yes.
I art journal all the time. I like scrapbook and I have gotten back, like, I bought vinyl stickers because I'm a grown up and I have money and I can buy so many stickers. So I have stickers and sticker books and I make bracelets and all of these things that just are for fun and for me. And I watch stupid videos for 15 minutes on end and bust a gut. And I feel so good after doing that. It's not productive, but it's productive for my soul. And those sorts of soul activities are missing that I think a
Yes.
lot of us need to do more of.
Oh my gosh, that is so fun, first of all. I love that you have so much money to buy all the stickers and no one's saying that's too many or don't stick those on the wall.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that is so fun. And how would you recommend somebody find that balance in their day, especially when they're first starting off in their entrepreneurial journey, even though somebody may not have the time to go out and, you know, do something once a week? How can they find those little moments throughout the day to bring that fun back into their lives?
Well, one of the things, like I said, is I've curated, I feel like my algorithm knows me. I've curated my algorithm that it's sometimes in the morning before my daughter or after my daughter leaves for school and before I start my work day. I might spend 10 minutes just sitting on the couch watching these videos and laughing. And it just like, I am literally crying laughing. And then I'm like, okay, time to get into work now. But it sets the mood for my day. And it literally only took me 10 minutes, you know? I always say to people who come to my workshops, especially the business focused ones, because I work a lot. I've shifted and I work a lot more with ambitious and entrepreneurial women. And I always say your business, sorry, hold on, let me backtrack to my own quote. I don't your biggest asset in your business is you.
Mhm.
And so if you are not taking care of you, your business is not going to thrive in the way that you want it to. And so the same way that you would invest in a marketing strategy, or that you would invest in like a system, or that you would invest in Flowdesk or Calendly or whatever that thing is, you actually need to carve out time to invest in yourself in that way just the same. And that is going to actually create the success that you're looking for, even if it's in small ways. And it doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be a big thing, but even in 15-minute increments every other day, I don't know, whatever, but it's so vital to everything.
Yeah, we almost have to start looking at it as a business strategy.
Yes.
And you sound like a very creative person. So I think that this probably comes with a bit of natural flow for you. I'm trying to think back to some of the things that I used to do in childhood, and they're actually always the things that I table every New Year's that I want to start again as hobbies. For me, that's a lot of like, picking up things I don't know how to do. Like I've wanted to play the piano and get back
Oh,
into horseback riding and show jumping and all this. So you've really inspired me to make that a priority for me because of the personal benefits, but also the very obvious business benefits that it offers us.
totally. It's so much harder to show up in your business when you are burnt out and depleted.
Mhm.
And you can pour back into yourself in small ways by shutting off your brain and doing things that are based in creativity. I used to do a lot more workshops for corporate companies. And there is a local college that I used to go back to this one team. Every 3 months, I would go and check in with their team, and we would do some sort of team building and workshop and stuff. And I was taking them through this one tool that I have. It's called the Wheel of Balance. And it's looking at all the different parts that make up who you are and which ones that we are lacking in and can stand to pour into more. And there was a woman who shared that I want to paint more. I used to love painting. And just since having kids and all of that stuff, I never do it. And there's this little corner in my basement that I have carved out for me to paint, and I never go and paint. And so after that workshop, then we set a goal, and I was like, okay, next time we get together, I want to know how your painting goes. And so she came back and she shared with us that she started painting again. And I thought that it was going to be this big, heavy thing that I was making time for. And it kind of did feel that at first, she said, as she was rewiring that belief about it and those pathways to make it easier. But then all of a sudden she found that she was like looking forward to it and that she was less stressed and she was kind of using it to decompress and all of these really cool things that happen when we take time for ourselves and get quiet with ourselves and do something just for creativity's sake. But yeah, it's just even if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I'm not creative. I can draw stick people and blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be pretty or fancy, or you could literally scribble or doodle on a page, or maybe it's gardening, or maybe it's arranging flowers, or maybe it's cutting the grass. I don't know. There's so many things that you can do. It's just you got to do what feels good for you.
Yeah, that's such good advice, even if it's something that is so unconventional to other people. Cutting the grass. I used to cut the grass and I actually really loved it. I would put headphones on, I would listen to an audiobook or a podcast, and nobody bothered me for like a good chunk of the day. It was amazing.
Yeah, I actually it's very snowy here right now. Where are you? Are you out west?
Calgary. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Calgary.
Yeah, so it's also equally probably as snowy. Actually, maybe we have more snow than you in
I think
Ontario.
you guys do. You guys got dumped on.
We have so much snow right now. But I also love the snow for other things. But in the summer, our backyard is my sanctuary. And I am the one that does the gardens. I am the one that cuts the grass. And I love doing that stuff. It just makes me feel so grounded And I just love looking at the grass after and it being fresh and cut. And just, I often actually don't put headphones on and I'm just out there with the birds. And I'm like the weird garden lady.
You're finding your bliss. It's your bliss.
Yeah, honestly, it is my bliss. And I think that so many of us ignore the things that bring us joy and bring us happiness. And it's, oh, if I can go on the big beach vacation and if I can buy the thing, that's going to be the thing that makes me happy and brings me bliss. And maybe it is, but it may actually also just be pausing and smelling your coffee before you drink it and taking that first sip and being like, oh my gosh, this is so good. Or crawling into bed. My husband always laughs at me because I have a heated blanket and underneath our fitted sheet, and I
Yeah.
preheat the bed before I get into it. And when I crawl into bed at night, I'm like giggling. I'm like, oh my God, this is so nice. And I'm just laughing. And you can just enjoy the simple things. And those can be the things that bring you bliss and maybe bring you the happiness that you're looking for in the big, grandiose someday things.
Oh my gosh, that is a mic drop moment because that is so true. We have to harness the small little things that we have access to anytime, any place, and we're not constantly waiting for that next big thing to
Yeah.
fill that gratification and get that dopamine hit. I 1000% agree with what you say. I am definitely going to be heeding a lot of your advice because it is absolute freaking gold. I love that you curse because I love a good F-bomb myself. It's just refreshing. And I love how you're basically redefining that professionalism for yourself.
Yeah.
And probably for the industry as a whole. Embody Bliss comes out March 11th. Pre-order your copy. I literally cannot wait to read this book, honestly. I'm not just saying that because you're on my podcast and we're in a mastermind together, but I genuinely cannot wait to read this book. It sounds so practical and yeah, I'm just excited for that literary TED Talk.
I got to tell you, speaking of TED Talks, one thing that I also did with this book, because like I said earlier, I want people to take so much from this and be able to carry it forward forever. And I think about myself when I read a book, it's, oh, this book is so good. And then I close it and then it's like, oh, okay, it's done. What did I read again?
Yes.
I often find myself doing that. And so with this book, there's actually audio integrations that are going to come along with it as well. So in the
cool.
book, there's going to be a QR code that takes you to a web page that has basically audio activations that you can listen to for each chapter. So it's whatever you've learned in a chapter. It's 3 to 5 minutes. You put in your earbuds and you do whatever you do, and you can further. Repetition is the one thing that's going to really change those neural pathways, right? And so it's like you can listen to them over and over and pick your favorite one and go back to it and just keep taking all of the nuggets of wisdom from this book so that you can actually create that change that you're looking for and get it in all of the different ways that serve us well in our busy lives.
Oh my gosh, that's so smart. And this just speaks to your creativity as well too, because that is, I don't know. I read a lot of books, but I don't know of any book that's done that.
Yeah. I know. You know what? And it's funny. I just have to tell this story because it just speaks to like the power of slowing down. That idea came to me when I was literally sitting in. So this summer, I took my own advice and invested in working with Sarah and also doing a resonance breathwork course. So a friend of mine teaches breathwork, but it's not like the intense breath work where you're like having these out of body experiences. That stuff scares me personally. But hers is very gentle and it's just rhythmic breathing. And so I was doing one of these breath sessions at a cottage that I was at for the summer during the middle of the week because I can. I was there with my laptop. I was with my brother and I was doing this morning breathing. And then I would just like had the idea of, oh, I should do these audio integrations in this book. That would be the perfect companion. And so it's when you slow down, when you give yourself space to allow ideas to come, to be with yourself and your creativity, that's when really cool stuff can flow. But I think that a lot of people are so stuck in the busy that they don't know how to be quiet with themselves.
Yes,
I want skill in itself.
1000%. Before we started recording and I was talking about this podcast coming to life, it was literally on a walk. and I wasn't listening to anything. I had my dogs and it was early morning and everything just dropped in so easily, so quickly. And I
Yeah.
guarantee if I had been doing something on my laptop, I would have missed it.
Yeah.
We need those moments of silence. And I had a yoga teacher tell me something one time that stuck with me so much. And I feel like she was speaking directly to me in that class. She said, "You're doing so much when you do nothing at all."
Yes.
And I was like,
Oh, yeah.
I literally opened my eyes. It was restorative yoga. And I popped my head up and I was like, everyone else had their eyes closed. And I was like, she's speaking to me.
I hear you.
I got the
hear you.
message. Yes. Okay. One final question before we sign off. Andrea, what does it mean to be a boss to you?
I think that to me, being a boss is not about telling other people what to do. It actually has nothing to do with anyone else and everything to do with you. I think being a boss to me is being so self-assured, so in your belief in yourself and what you deserve, that you don't let anyone else tell you otherwise, and that you don't take anything that happens outside and take it personally and make it about you. When I was in college, I'm just going to end with this because I think this is such a good book. When I was in college, we had to read the first personal growth book that I ever read, which was The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I believe Ruiz. That's how you pronounce his name in my mind. And one of the there's four agreements that you have to like adopt in order to live well. And one of them was don't make assumptions, don't take anything personally, always do your best. And I always forget the fourth one. But those things to me encompass what being a boss is, like really embodying that, not making assumptions. Just because somebody doesn't text you back within the amount of time that you think they should text you back doesn't mean they're mad at you, doesn't mean that they hate you. Maybe they're just busy, right? Maybe they got something else going on. They still love you. You know, just because somebody is really grumpy at you, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's about you. Don't take that personally. That's probably about them. And if
Yes.
you always show up doing your best, then you can sleep at night, and that's the most important thing. And then yeah, whatever the fourth one is probably impactful as well, but I can't remember it.
I can never remember them. It's such a short, small little book too. You'd think it
know.
would all stay in, but no, it doesn't.
It'll come to me in the shower later, probably.
Yeah, or 3 a.m.
Yeah.
You'll get jolted to awake and you'll be like, that's the fourth agreement.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what it means to me, and that feels good for me. It's not about anybody else. It's just about me.
Total ownership of self and role and responsibility. I love that. Thank you so much for being here. It was an absolute pleasure.
Thanks for having me. I had a great time.
Thank you for spending a part of your day with me. I want to remind you to take a moment and notice what this conversation has stirred up inside of you. You get to decide what you want to do with that. I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, continue to build boldly and own it fully.